So previously I had shown these single rotary encoders for the MIDI project, and the primary difficulty with using the single ones is the spacing. They're really nicely spaced out at 1 inch apart, but because of the cabling it becomes a little bit more difficult. Now, one thing that I was considering if I did use these would be to have them on diagonals, and that way the cables could be kind of tucked away nicely. But I'm not going to go that route for this particular project because this one requires a number of rotary encoders, at least 8, and I did in the last week get some new parts in. And these are rotary encoder boards, again from Adafruit. This is her NeoRotary 4. So they are able to fit 4 rotary encoders onto one board. And they are significantly closer together as you can see. So we'll be able to really have a nice tight setup. I mean, here, if I bring my little paper ruler down here, that's about 6.5 inches, 6 inches, 6 inches across for 8, which I think is pretty good. The one of the differences, if you are getting into the rotary encoder arena with the Adafruit stuff, is that these single ones you can purchase with the rotary encoder already soldered on, so you're kind of ready to go out. On these, the NeoRotary 4 boards, you just get the printed circuit board and the associated circuitry on the back. You have to purchase your own rotary encoders, and you have to solder them on yourself, which is really not that big of a deal, but keep that in mind if you're using that. Also, the code is, I won't say completely different, but it's significantly different between the single ones and these quad ones. In some ways, I find the single ones are easier to use programmatically than the quads. And that's because the single ones, this has an address, this has an address, this has an address, this has it, and so on. So all 8 have an address. In this version, each board has an address, and then you have to pull individual rotary encoders on each board. So instead of going, hey number 1, hey number 2, hey number 3, you have to say, hey board 1, encoder 1, 2, 3, 4, hey board 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the code's a little different, and unfortunately the examples that they have some really good Python examples, but there's not an Arduino example for how this is used. It's close enough, but it took me a little while to figure out, okay, I have to instantiate multiple classes and yada yada. So anyhow, this is what I'm going to be going with for this particular project. I'll be able to fit 6 of them into a space of, 8 of them into a space of about 6 inches and about 1 inch there. The enclosure will be bigger, especially if I have to add a display and then outputs. Do I do DIN 5 MIDI? Do I do TRS serial MIDI or whatnot? So, but I think from a compact standpoint, this is the way to go. And you can gang, I believe, up to 8 of these boards together. So in theory, you can have one microcontroller controlling 32 rotary encoders. At that point, you want to use interrupts because you're polling so many things that you want to grab the value as soon as you can. But so that's what is happening with that. So the single ones work great, but for this particular project, I'm going to be using the NeoRotary 4s.